Okay, we'd like to kind of get this meeting started. Okay, I think certainly we have a quorum. I want to welcome everyone today to this special called board meeting. Again, we consider adopting our, we will consider adopting our agency strategic plan. As a reminder, the meeting is being broadcast via the internet, so at any point, any of us, including some of you in the audience, may be visible to anyone watching online. And as an additional reminder, please silence your cell phones and computers. First item, public testimony. We've not received any requests for public testimony, so we'll move on to agenda item number 3, which is consideration of adopting the staff recommendation relating to the agency strategic plan for fiscal year 2017 to 2021. Linda Battles, Deputy Commissioner for Agency Operations, Communication and Communications, Chief Operating Officer, will present a summary of the agency strategic plan. Linda?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, members, for being here and for meeting in a special called board meeting. I want to quickly, before I start presenting on the plan itself, explain to you why we're meeting in a special called board meeting today. This slide shows the key dates of the agency strategic planning process, and you'll see on March 8th, the Governor's Office and the Legislative Budget Board issued instructions with an original deadline for submission on June 8th. And we didn't have sufficient time to prepare the plan and all of its required components for the April board meeting. So we requested and were granted an extension until tomorrow. And so we chose to meet today to minimize your travel into Austin since your committee meetings were already scheduled. So again, we appreciate your attendance and any feedback that you have about the plan. State statutes require agencies to submit a 5-year strategic plan to the Governor's Office and LBB every 2 years. There are several required components of the plan, and the first is the plan itself, which includes the agency mission, goals, action items, and recommendations to eliminate statutory regulations that are redundant or impede the agency from achieving its core mission. The second contains several supplemental schedules. Schedules C, F, and G are statutorily required reports that over the years have been included in the strategic planning process. So I'll provide a high-level overview of each of these components, and all of these components combined total about 226 pages. So I've done my best to try and distill the key information of all of that information in this presentation, and I'll try and go through as quickly as possible, but of course, please stop me at any time if you have any questions or suggestions. Here is our mission statement: to provide leadership and coordination for Texas higher education and to promote access, affordability, quality, success, and cost efficiency through 60 by 30 techs, resulting in a globally competitive workforce that positions Texas as an international leader. And as you can see, that we are recommending 2 non-substantive changes just to add clarity to the statement. Here's our agency philosophy. Essentially, we strongly believe that access and success without quality is mediocrity, and quality without access and success is unacceptable. And Commissioner Paredes regularly emphasizes this in his testimony before the legislature, his speeches around the state, and media interviews. As you can see, we're not making any changes to our philosophy, but I wanted to highlight it because I hope that you'll pick up on a theme that's embedded in our plan about the danger of mediocrity. Here are our core values. We hold ourselves accountable for our actions. We accomplish our work in the most efficient manner. We develop collaborative partnerships with our stakeholders, and we strive for excellence in everything we do. Again, we're not making any changes, but I wanted to highlight them as you will also see them embedded throughout our plan. The Governor's Office and the LBB determined these statewide objectives listed on the left side of this slide, which deal with accountability, efficiency, effectiveness, excellence, and transparency. All state agencies must align their operational goals with these statewide objectives. And as you can see, our goals listed on the right, as well as our core values, are appropriately aligned with the statewide objectives. On the next several slides, I'll go over each goal, provide some contextual information, and highlight some of the action items we've implemented or will implement to help us achieve our goals. Our first goal is to provide efficient and effective stewardship of taxpayer dollars. Each box here includes action items to help us achieve this goal. I want to highlight the one relating to the need to justify new or existing state funding. We've long been operating as a lean agency as we continue to do more with less general revenue to support our operations. We've been able to utilize student loan funds to support both direct and indirect administrative costs associated with the loan program operations. However, we're getting to a point where if the legislature continues to reduce our general revenue funding, the quality of our services and our ability to effectively carry out our core functions will be compromised. Related to this, staff is currently in the process of developing our proposed exceptional item requests. Exceptional item requests are funding requests for the next biennium that are above our current base level funding. We're looking at what we could request in order to restore some of that funding that was reduced last session and over the years since 2013. And those may add up to over $1 million for agency operations. Of course, this is contingent on the Commissioner's approval as well as your approval in July of our LAR. We keep hearing it's going to be a tight budget session in 2019, so we're going to have to make a very compelling case to the legislature for why we need additional general revenue to support our operations, or at the very least, the importance of not reducing it any further. Goal 2 is to fully implement the state's higher education plan, 60 by 30 techs, and over the last 2 to 3 years, staff has done extensive outreach to inform, engage, and mobilize our stakeholders across the state. Staff has held 8 out of 10 regional meetings. They regularly use social media to increase awareness about the plan and have had substantial media coverage relating to 60 by 30 techs. A long list of other accomplishments are provided in the plan, as well as a progress report on how the state is doing on the 4 goals of 60 by 30 techs, which you heard earlier today from Julie Eklund. We align nearly everything we do with the goals of 60 by 30 techs, and you see that reflected in our legislative recommendations and how we prioritize our budget. We want to keep 60 by 30 techs at the forefront of all of your discussions, so we have regular standing agenda item for every board meeting and highlight at least one data element relating to 60 by 30 techs. And through the governor's tri-agency initiative, we're also enhancing our cooperations with TEA and the Texas Workforce Commission, and we're working to implement the statewide strategies that are listed in 60 by 30 techs. Our third goal is actually related to a brief discussion you had earlier this morning, and that is to provide efficient and effective coordination of and planning for Texas higher education. As you know, one of the most fundamental responsibilities of the board is to deploy limited state resources in an equitable and cost-efficient manner. When the coordinating board was established in 1965, then Governor John Connally challenged the members of the board to consider a few things as they carry out their duties. And all of you are familiar with John Connally's charge. It's one of the first things that you hear about as a new board member. However, for the benefit of our audience, I'd like to read an abbreviated excerpt from the charge given its relevance today. Governor Connally said in 1965, the greatest risk you face in an institutionalized system with each college or university grasping for its own ends without regard to the needs of the people of the whole state. Over the years in Texas, we have come to regard each college or university as a separate institution, striving independently for success. In many cases, regarded locally as a boon to the economy, it struggles to be all things to all people, willing to do almost anything that will assure it's getting larger, and it remains in constant danger of mediocrity as a result. Fast forward 53 years later, Commissioner Paredes has repeatedly said Texas is in danger of expanding higher education programs and facilities beyond the state's ability or willingness to fund them adequately. And this expansion creates genuine cost to taxpayers, and unless the legislature authorizes significant increases in funding for higher education, these new campuses and programs will continue to divide a limited state funding pie into increasingly smaller slices, which can lead, again, to mediocrity and to costly, unnecessary duplication of programs. So we need the necessary statutory authority in order for the board to effectively fulfill this fundamental responsibility. And last session, related to Mr. Anwar's question earlier, Senator Seliger and Representative Alvarado filed legislation to require institutions to obtain coordinating board review and approval prior to acquiring property to create a new or expand an existing off-campus site, but neither bill was adopted by the legislature. And as you know, in April, you adopted your legislative priorities, and this is one of your Category 1 recommendations that will be provided to the legislature for the 2019 session. Our fourth goal is to maintain a skilled and knowledgeable staff to provide excellent customer service. It's become increasingly difficult to recruit and retain a highly educated, skilled workforce, primarily because we're unable to offer salaries that are competitive with the private sector, with institutions of higher education, and even other state agencies. A recent survey of our employees indicated that pay is a central concern or reason for discontent. In March, we did our best to address this concern by implementing an across-the-board 2% cost of living salary adjustment. But this is by far not enough to adequately keep up with the rising costs of inflation, especially since we have fallen so far behind. Another major concern of our employees is a lack of professional development opportunities. As our administrative budget has been reduced over the years, in terms of general revenue, funding for professional development is typically one of the first things to go, which adds to the challenge of attracting and retaining great employees. Our fifth and final goal is to communicate data, policy, and effective practices to all stakeholders in a clear and precise manner. We want to ensure that the data we collect is accessible to and understandable by all Texans. We also want to promote the use of data to drive policy and to assist institutions in meeting the goals of 60 by 30 Tex, and we want to improve transparency. As you know, we recently redesigned our agency website to make it more compliant with accessibility laws and to make it easier for our customers to find the information they need. We've redesigned the accountability system website and are in the process of redesigning our data website, which is scheduled to be launched this summer. And both of these websites are frequently used by institutions of higher education. We've also been very fortunate to have private grants obtained through the Texas Higher Education Foundation, formerly known as the College for All Texans Foundation, to support efforts to achieve this goal. And Julie Eklund earlier mentioned some of these initiatives, such as the creation of our 60by30tex.com website to provide data and information relating to 60 by 30 Tex, the publication of the 8th annual Texas Higher Education Almanac, which provides statewide data on higher education and by institution in a user-friendly manner, as well as the expansion of our Data Fellows program for key stakeholders to learn about our data and how to use it to inform policy and practices. We'll continue working with the foundation to secure private grants to support these and other communication efforts. Another key component of the agency strategic plan is the identification of impediments and redundancies. This includes any services that make the agency less effective and less efficient in achieving our core mission. 2 years ago, staff identified 78 impediments and redundancies, and we were successful in eliminating 14. This time, we've identified 58, most of which were included last time. And what we'll do is we'll pursue the most impactful for the upcoming session. Moving on to the schedules, Schedules A and B relate to our budget structure as it appears in the General Appropriations Act. Our budget is structured under 9 goals, ranging from goals A through I, and each goal has several strategies or line item appropriations. which are essentially broken down by the programs that we administer. We also have performance measures associated with each goal and strategy. And while I don't want to go over the specifics about these particular schedules, I do want you to know that earlier this year, staff made recommendations to the governor's office and the LBB to create new budget strategies to provide greater transparency on how we spend our administrative funds. And I'm pleased to report that all the strategies that are listed on this slide were approved as standalone budget strategies. Currently, our compliance monitoring funding is embedded in our central administration strategy and doesn't have very much visibility with the legislature. And since the legislature established this key function in 2013, we want to ensure, beginning next session, that legislators are aware of the impact this function has had on ensuring institutional compliance with state laws and agency rules. The rest of the programs listed on this slide have historically been funded out of unexpended funds, primarily due to vacant positions in 3 divisions. The downside to having these funds embedded in our administrative strategies is that when the legislature reduces our administrative budget, these programs are negatively impacted, which are all aimed at helping students enroll in higher education and complete their program. So going forward, we want to ensure these programs have visibility with the legislature. And if we can effectively demonstrate how impactful these programs are in achieving the goals of 60 by 30 techs, we hope to see increases in state funding for them over time. Schedule C is our historically underutilized business plan, and this slide shows our FY17 performance results. You see that in 2 of the 3 categories, we surpassed the state goals, and we've issued 250 contracts to active accredited hubs in Texas, and our hub coordinator attended and sponsored 7 hub events across the state. I'm also pleased to report that our hub coordinator, Teresa Lopez, met Senator Royce West recently at a hub event. And, as most of you know, Senator West is a very strong supporter of hubs and is always encouraging state agencies to utilize hubs. When he heard about our results, he congratulated us, commended us for doing a great job, but he wants us to do even better. So we will continue to aggressively utilize hubs even when we're not required by procurement laws. And I should also mention this is a high priority for the commissioner. And so he really has pushed this since he joined the coordinating board in 2004. Schedule F is our agency workforce plan, which aligns with Goal 4 of our agency strategic plan. We are currently authorized to employ 264.9 employees, but we have actual 238 at this time. And this slide provides the demographics of our workforce relating to gender, age, and tenure. One of our primary concerns is that 33% of our workforce retired in FY17, and 76 employees will be eligible to retire over the next 5 years. So that's why our workforce goals are focused on recruiting and retaining a highly educated, skilled, and diverse workforce, succession planning, and preparing for potential budget reductions next session. And this is the last one, is Schedule G, which is a report on customer service, which you approved in April. That report found that 64% of our customers were satisfied overall with the service that they received from us. And one of the questions that was asked by a board member at that meeting was, how do we compare to other state agencies? And it is difficult to compare because of the differences in functions and services and customers and survey methods and response rates, but I went ahead and listed the overall customer satisfaction results from Texas Education Agency, the Texas Workforce Commission, and Texas State and Library Archives. So as you can see, compared to these particular agencies, we don't fare very well. But as I stated in April, we're not satisfied with 64%, and we're aggressively pursuing improvements to achieve better customer satisfaction results in the future. That pretty much completes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions. Yes, ma'am.
Good report, Linda. I just had a question on the hub dollars spent, just for my information. In fiscal 17, Could you give us kind of a range of what those totally collectively represent in dollars?
Okay, I can give you some of the major hub awards with the dollars associated with those hub awards. And
Or
under,
you can get this to me later. I just
Okay.
kind of wanted a comparison compared to our overall budget.
okay, I can total all these up for you. I
That'll be
have them
fine.
in my notes section, but
Very good report,
thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Ting?
We can continue the discussion, but I'd like to go ahead and move approval.
Okay. I had a question about page 171 on the main, no, I'm kidding. Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second? All in favor?
Well, no, we can still discuss if anybody wants to discuss.
Oh, yeah, any questions or, you know?
Just to say, excellent presentation, thank you.
Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Not opposed. Motion passes. This concludes our special called board meeting. So do I need a motion to adjourn? So moved. Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. This concludes our special called board meeting, and we have another 5-minute sort of segment before the cause meeting starts so they can get their audio, video, and internet thing working. Thank you.
That was a world of litigation.
Great.